Okay, well, look, let's kick off the first Soda Social webinar of the year, Design Trends 2021. This event is recorded, and if you are viewing, you'll be muted upon entry. There will be a poll in a minute, but I would just like to say how super excited I am to be a part of this. And also, it's amazing to see how many people that we have, how many attendees. There's close to 300, so absolutely outstanding figures. And yeah, let's kick into it. Nur, if I could ask you, please, to introduce yourself and the event.
Yes, absolutely. First of all, welcome everyone. So every year we get to hear about design trends, what's happening in the UX and design space in our industry. Only last year we had no idea about what was coming up, and disruptions all over at all levels. The way we work, the kind of work we do, and the needs of the clients and consumers kept changing. How did we navigate it, and what's shifted? There will be lots of learnings and takeaways that we are going to be discussing today. So my name is Nur. I work for Brilliant Basics as part of Infosys. It's Design and Innovation Studios by Infosys. So I look after experience and system design teams at Brilliant Basics. I'm together along with some of our very inspiring leaders that I met, and we will be discussing what's next and what's ahead of us and what kind of learnings we can take moving forward.
Okay, thank you very much, Now. As true Soda Social style, we'll be bringing up a poll any second now. That should appear on your screen. Okay, there we go. So the poll is, in the past year, have you noticed any advancements in the products or services that you use? Take a second to answer that, please. Okay, and while everyone is answering that poll, if I could ask the ladies to introduce themselves first. Neve, I could start with you, please.
Yeah, sure, thanks. Hi guys, this is my first ever panel, so no pressure, but I'll just give a brief intro. So I'm Neve. I studied visual communication in NCAD. Graduated in 2012, graduated from the UX Design Institute then in 2019, and I'm currently upskilling with Design SkillNet, doing design management. So that's kind of what I've been up to for the last couple of years, but my background is in branding and identity, and I guess I sort of navigated naturally towards UX and UI design, particularly in the area of, so I guess my passion is really kind of designing technology to improve people's lives. I've been really active with that at Spectrum Life. So I'm an active volunteer with the ADP list and designed.org. I'll kind of talk about them later on, and with Dublin Simon community as well. So I guess I was always kind of interested in the area of helping others, and I kind of found my career in two different paths. One volunteering, working with the homeless people of Dublin, but then also really passionate about branding, design, and kind of technology. So it's been really nice kind of being able to combine my interest for design, but then also for helping people in the space of well-being now as well. So I'm currently creative director with Ireland's largest health and well-being company, Spectrum Life, and we're currently creating digital innovative solutions to improve people's fitness, nutrition, and mental well-being. So it's really nice to be here, and thanks Emil for the intro.
Okay, thank you very much. Don't be worried that it's your first one, you're a natural. Julie, if I could ask you to introduce yourself also, please.
Yeah, certainly. Hi, everyone. I hope everyone's having a good evening. And yeah, again, really pleased to be here. Thanks for inviting me along. Well, I've been around for rather a while in the industry. I think I'm racking up over about close to 25 years working in digital. So I've seen lots of changes in that time, definitely. So I've worked across a wide range of industries, ranging from financial services, gaming, media, and currently I'm the user experience director at Saint-Gobain, who are a building, manufacturing and distribution company. Global company, in the UK, we're really focused on building manufacturing distribution. So they own brands like British Gypsum, Jewson's, the Builders Merchants, Graham's, the Plumbers. So lots of sexy, exciting sort of products we're making and moving around the country as well. But pretty vital at this time with obviously the construction services continue to function throughout the pandemic as well. So we've seen sort of really interesting changes in behaviours in the way our customers are doing stuff and interacting with us as well, that I'm sure we'll talk a bit more about later. So really passionate about getting women into tech, particularly in the areas of user experience design. I've been fortunate enough to speak at the Ladies at UX on a regular basis. Also spoke at the World Usability Congress about how we pull designs teams together to make them work successfully. And again, spoke at the Savvy UX Summit last year in Bangkok, which was a lovely opportunity just before all this happened. I usually run a TEDx women's event that's based in London. Sadly, that didn't go ahead end of last year as normal, but I'm hoping we'll get that up and running again in the future. So hope everyone has a good evening.
Okay, thank you very much. And last but not least, part of the panel, David, could I ask you to introduce yourself, please?
Sure. Hi. Again, also really happy to be here and excited for the panel today. I'm David. I'm the head of user experience at Audible, which is a part of Amazon, and we are the leading creator and provider of premium audio storytelling, is how we like to explain it. I've been doing this also for a little over 20 years now, and have been on lots of different sides from B2B and B2C within healthcare. Recently, a lot of focus on subscription services, and generally like to be involved with products where feel like we're doing good for the world, and where it's adding a lot of value for the people that use them. And really excited to jump in today.
Okay, thank you very much. We also have Rachel here, our British Sign Language interpreter for anyone who is hard of hearing. Next, hopefully, we should have the results from the poll popping up any second now. There we go, perfect. So the question, if you forgot, was in the past year, have you noticed any advancements in the products or services that you use? 47% of you said COVID-19 adoption. So 17% of you said increased automation. 59% of you, which is the highest, said more online purchasing / services. 17% of you for modernizing core capabilities, and 10% of you didn't see any advancements. Okay, well, that's the poll there. Perfect stuff. And now if you could hand over to Nur to basically start the event off. Thank you all.
Thank you very much, Lloyd. And it's really great to have all of you guys, and really we're looking forward to the conversation tonight. So as you saw from the poll results, there are more and more services up and coming. But when the COVID hit, personally, I was traveling a lot, taking 5 a.m. flights to somewhere in Europe and go to a meeting with a client or a workshop. And all of a sudden, like, my life completely changed. And the kind of work I was doing is just like more focus, more one-to-one conversations, but extended times. So I want to open up this question and have a conversation about what are the changes for your case? And what is how do you start coping with these changes? Can we start with you, Julia? So would you like to talk to us about how do you cope? What are the core changes? And also what is the emergent patterns that you would like to continue, doing?
Yeah, of course it was a big change, when it all happened. And I guess dealing with the unexpected of it all, really, as in we didn't know at the time how long, who would have thought this, 6-9 months later we're still sitting sort of in our bedrooms or at our kitchen table sort of working still. So I think that was challenging to start with, not knowing how long it was going to go on for. Then I think it was initially getting people set up so they had obviously the right equipment, the right staff to be comfortable, have a space at home to work in, and to be able to, so I guess, get some sort of regularity into people's working lives, really. So for me, we do things like which I'm sure is pretty common. We do a morning stand up every day with all the team, so we all check in. And I think what's really important is it's about taking time to ask everyone how they are. Those conversations that you might have had when you just strolled into the office or you're standing at the coffee machine. So that's something that we really like to start off by doing as well. And then I think we've sort of all guests learned to adapt really about sort of ways of collaborating and the best way to do that. There's digital tools to do that, certainly. But again, I think for me, what's been really key is the preparation you need to do. So if you are running a workshop, I think a lot more preparation needs to go into it. So, giving people some homework possibly to do before that they can come prepared for, so that, you're setting the scene. That might be some reading, or it might be a bit of research, or, just their ideas, to ask them to jot those things down and think in advance so that you can be a bit more productive and collaborative and get off to a good start really straight away. So yeah, anyway, that's a few things that we've been doing.
Mm-hmm. And when you are going through all these changes, the time quite extended, and the way we work, and it's all on Zoom calls and Teams and etc. How do you what kind of prevention you took yourself that you actually cope with these changes in time?
Well, I think there's a lot of, about well-being. There's certainly a lot been said about that as well. And, as a company, Saint Gobain place a big emphasis on that very much as well. So it's making time, people to build in break times so that they go for a walk. I'm a keen runner, I have been for years, but making sure, I run every morning, which for me is a real sort of good mental start and sets me up for the day. It really gives me some energy and some focus. I don't run with music, I just run, and it's sort of free time for me to sort of think and sort of, I guess, mentally plan my day ahead as well. And I really encourage my team to do that as well. When the weather was better, it was, we don't always have to be on a Zoom or a Teams call to have a meeting. Let's, walk around the garden, or you're out walking the dog and you can do those calls as well. I think it's also good to acknowledge that some people have found it harder than others. My children are fortunately, well, they're close to being adults now, unfortunately, but I know some people, particularly in my team, have struggled with homeschooling, and that's been really challenging, I think, for people. There's one side of us saying, oh, take time out to, have a walk and take time, where some parents are sort of frantically pulling out their hair, to just, how am I going to cope with this homeschooling? As, you're telling me to go for a quiet walk. So I think what I've really tried to stress to the team is it's about flexibility. These are, we've never done this before, it's all new for all of us. So you don't need to do your normal core hours. If you need time out to do some homeschooling, then take that time out. You can catch up on stuff later if it's, designing some wireframes or putting stuff together. It's a bit different if it's a meeting you've got to be in. But I also question people to say, do I really need to be in that meeting as well? So I think it's getting people to really think about their day ahead, their working patterns, being flexible to adapt them, and people just not beating themselves up if they feel that, oh God, I didn't quite get done what I needed to do today. Just be realistic about the timescales and tasks you set yourself as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And also the way, for example, we also start supporting our colleagues. So the companies probably before COVID may not have many options to, flexible working or working from home, started becoming more flexible, so just basically by force. How about you, David? How was the situation from your side, and what are the preventions and practical learnings you may share with us?
Yeah, I think we went through very similar things. One advantage, people were generally set up very well to work remote. We had people that work remote some of the percent of the time, often. So we were set up to do that in terms of just having the basic materials. But that same idea of having, making sure we understand how people are doing from a mental health point of view, making sure people are able to, they have different factors going on in their worlds. Families with young kids had one particular scenario. people that were single and were quarantining alone, especially in the beginning when things were really clamped down, had a whole different set of issues they had to go through, different strains. But I think one of the things that is sort of most interesting to me about everything that happened, and what I think will start to have, existing long-term changes, impacts, are sort of a more rapid crashing down of the barrier between personal and work. And in some ways that's been rough, right? We've had to say, you know what, I'm going to stop working at, whatever o'clock, let's say 6, and to say, I'm going to stop working at that time, and I'm not going to work after that point, even though I know I have access, or I'm not going to start here. And because there was an ease of sort of just accidentally letting it blur through. But I think also, and in some ways more the delightful aspect, not that this has been delightful overall, and certainly, very, very difficult for a lot of people, but this idea that, if someone's child comes on screen, that's okay, and they need to have a human moment with their child to take care of them, or their significant other comes in and they need to take a moment to have a conversation, or getting a delivery, and all these sort of normal human things, which I think honestly, I would have been concerned at a meeting, presenting up to the CEO if my child came in, in the past, and now it's just sort of accepted, like, okay, that, we're humans, we're at home, this is part of how it goes, we'll take that moment and we'll move forward. And I'm sort of hopeful that allowance with working from home, and that understanding that there's this is a real, that this isn't a complete separation, work and home life, is going to continue. So while there's been a lot of the strains and how do we help people through it, I think there are some of these nice trends that are going to move forward, that are going to continue in a positive way.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And what about yourself, Niam? What are the the core learnings and the core prevention that you took from your side, and how did you support your teams during this time?
Yeah, I think like my biggest personal challenge was probably the isolation. Like I loved going to work, and I loved, mapping things out on a whiteboard and sitting beside the developer and saying, no, change this or change that, and having a very kind of hands-on approach. So I really struggled with the isolation. I got a cat. Didn't solve everything, but it definitely helped. But I think like trying to stay motivated, I think the motivation comes down in a funnel. So if I don't feel motivated, I don't really expect my team to feel motivated. Like sometimes I just want to stay in bed and play Animal Crossing. Like you feel totally crap. But I do think those, as David was saying, like those barriers have been broken down, which is really nice, particularly in the area of mental health. Like we took 17,000 calls last year to our employee assistance program, which is incredible. And most of those people were between the age of 36 and 40. So like that just kind of goes to show you that people are becoming more open about talking about their mental health. And I think that's a really nice kind of pattern and trend that, we learned from 2020 that we can hopefully take into 2021. But I also learned a bunch of stuff around like new digital tools. Like I had never used Miro before. Miro's changed my life. It's amazing. I've also used new tools because obviously I can't sit beside the developers anymore. So tools like Pastel, being able to kind of mark up wireframes and that kind of stuff. So it was definitely a learning curve for me in the office, being able to brainstorm with the design and dev team, but then kind of picking up these new tools as well. I also think upskilling as well. Like I've definitely done a bunch of like Udemy courses and stuff like that. And kind of, we have like a LinkedIn learning kind of initiative and work, and I probably wouldn't have put all that time over the last year into kind of upskilling had we not had the time. So I think there's definitely like really nice things to take from it, but the main one for me would be those boundaries and that kind of stigma of mental health between management and employees kind of being lifted. Like we have a relaxation and rest day coming up at the end of Feb, and our management has kind of said like, look, that's the day that you have to take and chill out and self-care. And I just think that's amazing. So yeah, hopefully we kind of see that pattern stay with us as we kind of progress into 2021.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, especially around upskilling. I think what we also saw this year, you know, all the training programs that is provided in organizations just become, you know, the core thing. As soon as the COVID hit, we started BB Academy, in our internal learning platform, where we can, you know, share knowledge, but also bring external, you know, expert to help us with some of the core areas we want to develop. I felt it's a moment of realization of, you know, I'm working very hard. Am I doing the right thing? What's the next thing? I think each of us, like, individually started thinking about this, and I think it's a good, you know, reflection, you know, because it's just workload is so much, but is, you know, what do I want to do next? So that has been big conversation from our side. So I want to also talk about, you know, when earlier in the COVID, we started hearing, here is the remote facilitation guide, here is the 5 steps, you can encourage your teams. But it was really hard. Some of the people, like, keep them engaging, and you don't, you know, you have people of 15 people in the same meeting. How do you actually start, you know, getting everyone engaged, and what was the kind of core learning from? How can we expand that collaboration into virtual space? Julie, you already hinted in your earlier conversation some of these aspects. Would you explore a little bit on that, please?
Yeah, yeah, certainly. Yeah, I guess for me, it's really important, you know, ensure you've got the right people engaged in it. I mean, I've just been working on a project where we're sort of revisited all our personas, and that's been quite a big collaborative project that we've been working on. But we've done that with bringing in different teams. So we've brought in the branding team, marketing teams, also product and some developers to get sort of different perspectives and views on that as well. And and we've found that, again, prepare, have a really good agenda and clear in advance, time slot the time in sessions for it as well. And again, we got people to do homework to come along. There was stuff for them to read of drafts we'd put together and ideas. So I think that works really well if you invest that time in getting things set up in advance. We have done some quite successful collaborations with those teams in that way, you know, just by, you know, a lot of assigning time to allow individuals to sort of talk as well, because I think that's a danger when you're online, you know, as we're experiencing now. There's lags in the conversation, there's gaps, someone starts sounding like a robot because their Wi-Fi is not very good. So I think it's really important to sort of slow the pace down and allow people all that time to, you know, collaborate and have their say in the conversation. You know, it can be quite hard for someone who's a bit shy, who's maybe a bit junior, to feel that their opinion is important as the others. So it's important to really do that, go around the room, introduce everyone, as obviously you guys have done brilliantly this evening, so that people know who they are, what they do, a little bit about them. You know, we've found that that's been working really well.
It's lots of learning and iteration, isn't it? Initially, when we translated kind of typical icebreaker to virtual environment, it took about like half of the meeting. And then this is like, this is not working. We need to find a better way of icebreaking. If we move to David, how did you continue collaborating online? Would you also elaborate on the same topic, please?
Absolutely, and I'm sure. I mean, both Niamh and Julie talked about the, you know, moving to the, you know, more of the collaborative tools, Miro, Freehand, and Figma. I think, you know, certainly this entire, you know, by working home has really pushed us to more of these collaborative tools. And there's a cost that comes with that, with us not being in the same room, but there are some benefits as well. You know, the benefits, for one, is, you know, we were always a large team, and you know, in different buildings, even in our headquarters, but distributed across the globe in different time zones and different locations. And it's always was difficult doing these workshops, you know, with people that, you know, weren't necessarily there, and sometimes we'd fly people in and things like that. But it was difficult in that sense. And there's been, in some ways, there's this benefit that, you know, and there's learning that we really can do these types of workshops online and remotely, and hoping some of that aspect stays there together. And certainly, pushing us to more collaborative design tools has also been a benefit. On the cost side, absolutely, right? There's still, how do we get people engaged? I think some of the tricks have been to make sure that people have specific tasks that they need to do, or all going in and working together at the board and for the same time. So that, all right, we've got 5 minutes, we're gonna design our little sketches here, and then we're all going to talk about our sketches. It forces that engagement, and it's kind of fun actually in a different way, as opposed to doing like crazy eights in a room, is that you get to see it all sort of happening live, especially as the moderator, and start seeing the different ideas come in. There's sort of that excitement to it. And I guess one thing that we did try that's new for us, I don't think we would have ever tried before, and it wouldn't have been successful, is we've had a couple asynchronous workshops where instead of having one moment where we normally would do and we go through the same process, we sort of set up a structure and say, hey, we'll have one meeting if you want it synchronous and we can go through, but like, we're going to keep this open for this week. And if you want to participate, there's very clear, you have to do a bit of setup up front to make sure it works, but people can come in and join. And we had some really great contributions. And again, we've got people in Japan, in Australia, and UK, and France, and here. So to be able to collaborate across the globe in that asynchronous manner has been kind of fun. It's not perfect yet. Like, we still need to continue to refine it and make it better. But there's, that sort of was something new that came out of this as well, that we're testing out, and we're gonna hopefully keep trying.
That sounds like an awesome idea, especially for different time zones, isn't it? Yeah, excellent. And how about yourself, Neem?
Yeah, so I guess obviously the kind of the digital whiteboarding, but in some ways it's kind of improved some of our processes, because I guess if you're in a room, it's always the more extroverted people that go straight for the whiteboard and go straight for, the pen and paper to map things out. And then sometimes that causes the more introverted people to sort of maybe like get inside themselves a little bit. But I think that these new interactive tools, it gives everybody the chance, everybody can work on the same board at the same time. And then I also think like some of these kind of Zoom meetings and stuff, it's easier for the more introverted people to contribute to the conversation. So I think there's definitely nice things that have come from it. I guess what's changed for us is our design has definitely become more systemized. We never had a design system before, because we were always in the same room with the developers, so we never necessarily really needed one. But that's definitely something that we've kind of been working on the last few months. It's just kind of, it makes sense, it's best practice to have it, but we didn't necessarily think that we needed one before. So I read that, it saves the average person 2 hours a week, a design system. So I think that's definitely something that we'll take from the last year, and bring it forward and kind of try to systemize our design processes a bit better.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's definitely important point. Also, when we set up the workshops in virtual environments, say like Microboard, it also give opportunity to attendees to kind of visit later. So that was one of the things that, the board is accessible for today, so you can come back and you can see people kind of coming back and sticking a lot of things, especially clients or partners that who don't normally experience this kind of collaboration and learning in that session. So these are all new things that we started experimenting this time, and by this time probably we have a lot more to do moving forward. Has anyone experimented virtual workshop with the headset and AR and VR? No. We actually, one of my colleagues set up a workshop environment, and due to lack of available and incompatible devices, we could actually walk into the workshop, and the setting and everything, it was great. So we thought it would be amazing, but we kind of felt like we didn't have the infrastructure. So we needed to kind of deliver devices, the compatible devices, to people's home. So it was just a very short experiment, but we kind of could see the future and how it can really help people to collaborate a lot more. So this time, I want to bring the conversation towards you guys already hinted, like, different people, and they get set off certain tasks during this conversation on, via, during the collaborative, in virtual collaborative environment. what are the kind of, you know, diversity and inclusivity measures we started taking during this time? So, you know, this has been a really big conversation in the across all the industries now, and everyone is, you know, trying to talk about it. There has been like a big movement. So I would like to start, you know, asking this question, you know, how do we support diversity and inclusion? What are the key things that we need to be continue supporting and continue be doing? Niv, I'm going to come back to you on this. Would you like to give us a little bit of your point on this?
Yeah, perfect. So I guess like the last couple of years, just in the kind of the area of diversity and inclusion, like obviously we would have run workshops and stuff, and now obviously that's all gone online. So yeah, I think like we've been kind of from a kind of a HR perspective, you know, we've been kind of trying to even down to like gender equality, like we're hiring for more people and more developers for our dev team, and you know, trying to include a kind of a gender balance there, I think is really important. I don't know about you guys, how you guys have kind of incorporated it into your own work, but yeah, that's kind of where we're at the minute.
Mm-hmm. And Julie, you also, you know, you run a lot of women in tech and ladies events. I also would like to hear from you, especially on diversity and inclusion. One of the things that really struck me is that our industry, it's kind of, I feel, is a little bit more advanced, so less hierarchical and it's more collaborative. But, you know, we still hear from people, especially around gender, you know, gender diversity. Would you share some of your learnings and some of your you know, suggestions for, you know, what are the kind of things that we really need to be consider moving forward and supporting our teams and communities?
Yeah, well, I think we all know that, you know, mixed teams are more successful teams, you know, and I think what's important to remember when we talk about diversity, it's not just about sort of gender and race, it's about sort of backgrounds, age, you know, is equally important as well, as, you know, I say as I become older. You know, these things are really all important, and it's about sort of what a mixture of people can really bring to that. So we really do try at St. Gobain to, you know, build diverse teams. I mean, as an industry, the building trade is very male dominated, as you can imagine, you know, so the majority of customers we deal with do tend to be men. But at the same time, we've identified there's often a strong woman behind many of these businesses who's doing a lot of the administration and stuff. So we've really, you know, started to build, you know, them into our design process very much as well. I guess that's obviously more the customer aspect of it. But, you know, I mean, what I look for is, you know, you need the right person for the job, but at the same time, I'm looking to bring a team together that's got that diversity, those mixed experiences that, you know, ideally will set us up to design better products for our users as well.
Mm-hmm. Really great to hear. How about you, David? How do you approach, and what are the focus areas from your side for diversity and inclusivity?
Well, I mean, again, just want to echo completely, you know, the diversity and the backgrounds and everything on the teams, you know, is a range of things and is incredibly important. I think where it's not so much new this year, but you know, we've had, you know, unconscious bias training, and I think that's where, you know, and we've been trying to put in things in place that where even when people have good intentions and are meaning to do the right things and even in their hearts are trying to push in the right direction, but because of various reasons that the company isn't moving as fast as it needs to, or correcting in the way it needs to. We've put in a lot of things, or Audible's put a lot of things in place for that. You know, like I said, there's the unconscious bias training is one aspect of it, but there's also an element of measuring. I think just like, you know, at the end of the day, you can talk about where you want to be and say where your values are, but it's what the company measures and reports on a lot of times is where the actions and the change has. So we on an individual team level spent some time and really thought about what types of areas that we wanted to make sure that we had different perspectives in and different backgrounds. And we tracked to make sure that we're on that from a team level, and those similar types of numbers happening company-wide, they get reported up to the CEO on a regular basis. so that it's able, so that there's a lot of clarity and awareness, and that's not just, you know, among the team, but at different levels and all sorts of aspects of the company. So I think it's important, you know, for companies to go and decide really where their values are and intentionally make those decisions and then track it. And that's where the real change can definitely happen, because you can just see, you know, once you know what you're looking at, it's important. And I guess the third thing is, you know, we do try to, you know, I think there's also an aspect of, you know, modeling inclusivity and things like that. And it can be, you know, if anything, I think you know, one of the changes I felt in 2020 was it was the year that sort of, you know, non-binary and people, you know, explaining what their pronouns are really broke into corporate, you know, mainstream corporate culture, and in complete acceptance of that in a wonderful way. And I think we're seeing a lot more people identifying who what their pronouns are and putting that forward. And I think that's also key to it too. So in addition to tracking where we want to be, it's sort of modeling the behavior, not just who we promote and who we hire and who we interview, but also how we interact with each other as well.
It is also interesting how onboarding new people and people changing jobs during the COVID, and you know, some of our colleagues are, you know, we've been working for the last 6-7 months and actually never been to kind of, you know, in physical environment. But this is all like, you know, the patterns and, you know, there are actually ways to integrate people into the team. So these are some of the ones that we learn. So now when we, you know, this is a kind of like all internal and, you know, our design teams, the way we work. And also we started seeing some changes on the kind of things that we, you know, we design. So if we flip the conversation to the consumer side and user side, what are the kind of behavioral changes we see? And I would like to ask this question, start with Julie, if possible.
Sure. Yeah, I guess, I mean, I was reading, and I think we've seen, you know, as tragic the pandemic is and as bad it's been from a digital perspective, it's accelerated things, you know, probably what would have taken, say, you know, 3 to 5 years to change has now taken 3 to 5 months to change. You know, we've seen huge surge, you know, of numbers online. You know, Amazon's volumes are just going through the roof, you know, in what they're shipping and stuff, along with a lot of other companies as well. I mean, for us, we've seen some big changes. We actually launched our new juicen.co.uk website. We've got about 500 building branches, distribution and manufacturing places in the UK. And over that period, we were initially shut down for a very short time. And then we launched our new website, which coincided with branches being open again because the building trade was seen as an essential service as well. But it was really interesting how we've seen our customers who, you know, a lot of them are quite traditional. They like coming into a store to sort of, you know, have a chat, bargain, talk about the products and stuff, you know, actually feel the product. And we saw an immense numbers, you know, to go online because of this as well. It's also brought in a new customer for us who's the sort of DIYer who, to be honest, would see our stores, and a lot of them assumed we were trade only, but they now realise that we're online, that, oh, you're not trade only. So it's brought in a new sector of customer as well that we're now sort of having to design a bit differently for as well. You know, maybe we need to support them all with, you know, products such as, you know, calculators to help them estimate how many panels they need to, you know, put the fencing up in their garden. So there's been some really, really interesting developments in that way for us as well, in what we're seeing. Certainly a much more need for, you know, click and collect as well. And how do we set that up so that can run efficiently when our branches really, you know, weren't that gauged and set up to do that before as well. So yeah, it's a lot of opportunities there. It's given us as the positive, certainly.
And I think it's a sign of a lot of people kind of stuck at home, and home is where I feel safe, and the home started becoming more smart home, and lots of things as, you know, I can do it myself. If I can buy it online, why not? And because of that, you know, delivery times is basically the decision maker where I buy it from. So these are the kind of different things, you know, we all experience, and we are the consumers of that as well. And that also bring us, like, you know, what are the, you know, the data points, or, you know, the the notion of smart products, because I think the home space just becoming smarter and smarter as people are staying at home, and there's also like one conversation that's been happening. Would you talk to us a little bit about your side, David? How do you see the consumer behavior changed?
So, well, so also to be clear, I will talk about my opinions, how I think this is happening as the industry, but not specifically necessarily how it's going within Audible. But no, as you talked about in the beginning, I think, you know, last year we had everybody had this massive unexpected life event, and life event is when patterns change and when people start doing new habits, and you know. And that changed a lot. And I think this year we sort of have this expectation that we're all going to have this planned, known life event when we're able to get free again and start to see people and things change a lot. So I think that there's a lot of trends that are going to come from that. And I kind of think of it, I'll go through it quickly, but I kind of think of it in about 4 areas. One is, and this has been trending for a while, but I think as people will spend more time online, it's been enhanced. There's really an awareness of the algorithms that people use, right? There's data even, you know, for things like Netflix, that people are nervous about clicking something, even to see a preview, because they don't want to be recommended those things in the future. So there's this awareness of which didn't exist, you know, on the same level 5 years ago, of how the algorithms are feeding us. There's an awareness that humans are really behind the algorithms, and there's an anxiety around it, and an evaluation from people's self, where you know, they want to have some, you know, that you know, my what I want to watch on the weekends, or what I want to watch during the day, or when I'm in a particular mood, might be different, and the types of content and the types of social information, the news that I want, might be different. So I think we've seen in the past, sometimes this breaks down in terms of people going to different platforms. You know, different regions will have, this will be the social network for a business, and this will be the social network for friends and things like that, and can break down by different groups. But I think we also will see this year a trend within these companies giving more ways for people to express and control what the algorithm's recommending to them, whether it's a mood or incognito modes within these types of things, or you know, different ways you can kind of break it down. And there's been that's existed, but I think we'll start seeing more of that this year. Kind of on a second theme, I think, you know, as we get out, and I think, and people sort of evaluate what was important in this year, there's going to be a push to local. So, you know, things that are in their local areas, that people around them, people realize that even though we're, you know, I can be connected to people across the world, like, it matters that I know my neighbor, and it matters that I've got a support network around. So I think some of that is going to be happening in physical world. So there's going to be services supporting around that, as well, as we start seeing technology push in that area. And I think that also gets to, you know, small groups, that I think there's been a big rise, you know, in the past year, and it's been trending, but it really exploded around these small group chats and things like that. And how many people sort of have, you know, a couple of different groups that they connect to, and that's a sense of local, but it's also, again, a bit of that controlling who's part of the conversation. And there's even more, I mean, it's a bit on the fringes of where the, you know, technology is right now, but you have actually small groups paying for content, and like Patreon and OnlyFans and things like that. And I think we're going to start to see some more of those things moving into the mainstream, where people have a sense of control and who they are in this particular environment. They can pay and support artists or producers in that way. And then a third kind of part of it, which I see, is, you know, if last year was this big push because of all the stress into you know, basically, you know, guilty pleasures, you know, content where, you know, I'm stressed, so I just need to relax, and I need, you know, something gets me through, and I'm going to binge watch this show, which I normally wouldn't. You know what, days are hard, let's just get through this. I think as we're starting to move into this year, there's sort of awareness of, again, we've been through it for a long time, and you can only do that for so long, but a sense of guiltless pleasures. And there's going to be an interest in products and services that people can use, and then they feel good about having used it afterwards, and that they sense there's a value. And I think we'll start seeing, I think we'll see social apps popping up around that are really focused, particularly in social and media. I think we'll see services specifically around designed to be something you use and that you feel good after. And some of the big players in the space, obviously, I think we're also trying to capture on that. And then we know, you know, it's not just about this pulling people in and getting engagement as the end all be all, if at the end of the day they're not feeling rewarded at the end. And I think we'll start to see that shift as well. And I guess the fourth kind of trend that I see coming really from this year is, again, this major sense of social awareness. We've had, you know, from Black Lives Matter to, you know, several other events. It's really raised this sense of, you know, how we want these, you know, what do we value, and how do we support that both as companies, and particularly in tech, there's been some strains around that. And, you know, how do we decide what information we want to put forward, what information we want to qualify. So I think there'll be a bit of a reckoning within tech about how they should push that, but also on the plus side, a little bit more facilitating awareness of minority-owned companies, or you know, different types of services, so people can choose to support things, again, that they have value. And I think we'll see that coming in too. So I think that's playing, you know, overall in the media and social space, and those trends obviously, you know, we're involved with, but I think those are major trends that I see pushing forward that we're all going to have to deal with this year.
That sounds excellent. So really great to hear these different areas. And Neil, when you talk a little bit about your work on the more social impact project and working with homeless, but as well as some of the design client projects, do you see any kind of patterns emerging in your product design?
Yeah, definitely. So I've definitely noticed like a surge in kindness in the creative community. So there was a platform set up last May. I joined it in July, and basically it was set up by a guy, Felix Lee, in Singapore and James Bador in Ghana. And basically it's for designers by designers, they're designers as well. And it's a place where anybody can go as a designer. They get free mentoring advice, free coaching, one-to-one kind of chit chat on, you know, best practices in design. There's a lot of kind of UX UI designers on it as well. So I've noticed that, you know, like I get mentored as well. I don't only just give the mentoring sessions, but like, for instance, one of my mentors, he's given over 200 sessions since last July, and it's all free. He's the interactive design lead at Apple. So it's incredible. Like, there's mentors from Facebook, Apple, you know, Intel, Salesforce, and they're obviously very busy designers that are willing to give up their time for free. So I think that's incredible. And I think that's definitely, you know, a really beautiful trend that started in 2020 that we can take with us. But yeah, like initially it was set up to help people, help designers during COVID that lost their job. And now anybody can kind of go on to it. And a lot of my mentees have jobs, but maybe they're looking to get into UX design, or they're looking to kind of upskill in a certain area, or even just kind of general portfolio review, or as I said, kind of just a chat. So I've found that amazing, and I think that's a really nice trend that started. But yeah, like there's a couple of other ones out there. It's designed.org is another really good one, and it's adplist.org as well. So I think everybody should kind of go on and have a look. There's over 1,000 designers. It's very inclusive. It's in 190 countries. It's in 18 different languages. So it's kind of it's something that everybody has access to, which I think is really important and really nice.
That's really valuable information to share with our audience tonight. Thank you very much, New. The one other thing I would like to also mention, because I work on the agency side, so I work with large corporates, and they ask us to, design certain things, and the kind of needs also changing in the agency land. The more data-driven design, more personalization, but personalization at scale. So now the client is more asking for, I got 2 million customers and I want automated kind of personalization and optimizing processes. So this is, more and more hyper-connected, that the connection is based on data, and how can we use that data to make better decisions. And similar to that, lots of AI-driven, advancement in the kind of products we design. But a couple of things I also noted, that often we never actually had sustainability requirements in our projects, but this time we actually have sustainability culture and ways of working is always like a part of big questions that clients are asking, which is really positive, because there has been like a storm of who made my clothes, how is your processes. So people were questioning, what is the the services behind what we get, how do you operate, and are you sustainable, environmentally friendly, so all these like conversations that happened before COVID, I think is continue moving forward. With the force of that also COVID added on, I don't think there's any backdrop or on the part that we're working towards sustainability and we're working towards more environmentally friendly solutions. But not that we got there, but I think that improvements and movements that are happening is quite interesting, that already lands in the agency space as well. So I also would like to bring this conversation a bit of like moving towards our last final minutes. So considering that the situation that we are at is going to be moving forward, that we're going to be in this situation operating, whether we're designing, leading teams, and our audience listening to us tonight, do you have any key recommendation, like what is the kind of things like we should really take away from this session, and moving forward we just apply this so that it can help us and understand that these are the kind of things that we will be focusing on this year. So I would like to start with Julie, if possible.
Hi, yeah. I think the important thing is to remember there's a couple of things. Yes, all the work to do, and there's all that side of things. But I think it's really good to remember to have fun. Still, Niamh talked about how she misses going to work and how much she enjoyed it. Being in the office space, and that's not something we're going to be doing in the immediate future. So I think it's really important to bring an element of fun into what you do, get people to talk about their weekends, and not that they're probably that fun filled at the moment, but as the weather gets better and people can get out a bit more, about their kids, bring some of their family elements into it, talk about the box sets that they binged on the weekend, and share stuff. They could even be breakaway groups that are set up to develop a film club, or within your business. It just doesn't have to be limited to your teams. I'm sure many others have done some fun quizzes, sort of using Kahoot and stuff like that online, again making use of tools that are available there to us. We've done a sort of Christmas get together where people had sort of remote drinks that they brought along and stuff, and done that over a quiz. So I think that's really important, that fun element. At the same time, remember that every day is not a good day for everyone, and some days are harder than others. So do be kind to one another and tolerant. And if someone needs to take that time out, support them in doing that very much as well.
Absolutely. And there's also a suggestion about online escape rooms, which is actually really great team activities as well. And how about you, David? Would you have any core suggestions for our audience and panelists tonight?
I mean, I loved Julie's answer. I think I was, being human and understanding, what's how people are doing and bringing fun into it. I think is just vital for us to get through it. I think there's, the two other aspects of it are and to additionally, still always remain aware, for that there's, the pandemic's affecting a lot of people in very, very different ways. And in some ways people, were able to work and work remotely and things like that are incredibly lucky in this space. So I think there's focus on remembering just, even how difficult it is, that we are sort of very lucky that we're able to still work remotely. And I guess, the final aspect is for us to continue to, let's still try and capture the things that in this very, very rough time, the things that started to work better that we want to keep when we go back. And I don't think it's going to be a flood. It's not going to be, we're going to flick a switch and go back, but it's going to start, there were some parts of this that worked, and there were some parts of this that we want to keep. And I think being mindful of that as the transition starts to happen is going to be important, so that we can keep those going, and leave behind the things that didn't work and keep the ones that did.
Thank you very much. And how about you, Niamh?
Yeah, I think it's really just about setting realistic expectations as well. You know, even if it's could be something small, like giving yourself an extra day or two on a specific project, or, you know, kind of having that little bit of extra understanding. You know, somebody could be working in their bedroom and then sleeping in their bedroom, you know, so you're not really sure kind of, you know, home situations and stuff and how that could actually be affecting somebody's mental health. So I think it's just being really mindful. And I also think it's really important to just ask, you know, how are you? Like maybe ask twice, ask 3 times, you know, encourage people to get support as well. So like our employee assistance program, you know, I would encourage people I speak to in work to also avail of that and, you know, talk about your mental health issues, you know, speak to a counselor, you know, go out for an extra 2 hours during the day, get some daylight, and then maybe work the time up in the evening. So I think it's really just being understanding.
Really great to hear. I can't be agree more with all of you guys. So the trend of this year is be human and have an empathy. That's our conclusion. Thank you very much. It's really great to hear from you, from all of you tonight. And I will pass on to Lloyd to help us with some of the questions that's been popping up.
Thank you very much, Nat. Really, really interesting topic, everyone. Thank you very much for your thoughts. In true Soda Social, we're going into our poll just before we go into the questions, so everyone can answer that. So the poll, if for those, it is, what is your favorite way of collaborating remotely? And that could be over meetings such as Skype or Zoom, work management platforms such as Trello, telephone calls, WhatsApp, messaging, Google Hangouts, virtual reality, or real-time collaboration such as Miro, Mural, or iCloud. So if we just leave that for 1 minute while we get the answers up. The questions, if we could open the questions to the panel. Can the panel see the questions there at the top? Maybe not. So I will I will read it out to you. So basically, a chap called Liam has asked or said that it strikes him that some corporates are taking mental health for their staff so much more seriously now. And do you think that we might see some improvements in general empathy towards users in some businesses in light of what's been happened over the last 12 months? So I'd open that to the panel if anyone would like to answer it.
Yeah, I'm happy to. Yeah, I think we've really got to, haven't we? You know, it's. I mean, I know there had started pre-COVID. You know, lots of, as we talked about, employee support programs and different stuff. But I think they've really come into their own now, and this is something that is one of the benefits that we can take supporting people. We've set up an initiative called sort of mental first aiders. So you know, if you can speak to someone who's had some training, we've supported those people with training, and it's someone who of a variety of levels across the business who will keep the conversation completely confidential. They're not going to try and solve that person's problem as maybe you know, someone who's been specifically trained with lots of experience in that area, but they can help support them and point them in the right direction. And you know, and if there's real alarm bells off, also, you know, they can absolutely, you know, can refer them to someone who can really help them in the organization as well. So yeah, I think definitely it's something that I think it's broken some barriers down, which has got to be a good thing, definitely.
Okay, thank you very much for that. Would anybody else like to throw in?
Yeah, I might just jump in. Sorry. Yeah, so like what we've really noticed over the last 12 months, and we would have worked with a lot of large corporate clients before, you know, we had 1,000 events cancelled last March. So we had to pivot very quickly. And that's kind of where, you know, myself and my team came in to create, you know, an innovative digital solution instead. So we started issuing out, and we just kind of started in the last month or so, a well-being gym and kind of a digital gym. So somebody can go on, you know, there's 20 classes a week, It could be in the area of Pilates, you know, there's yoga, there's HIIT classes, there's mental health talks, there's a bunch of stuff. And we've really noticed like companies are really into it, like they're really passionate about it, and the employees are really passionate about it. So I definitely agree with your point. I also think that, you know, these companies, we've definitely noticed like a massive interest in the last year in well-being brands, which is quite nice because obviously my background is in branding and I'm interested in the area of well-being. So it's kind of a nice marriage of the two. But we've noticed the likes of Microsoft, Intel, you know, Amazon, they don't really want to speak to their employees underneath their, you know, umbrella brand when it comes to well-being. They want to create a kind of a bespoke well-being brand with a different kind of culture and a different kind of openness to their employees that can speak to them directly. So we've kind of noticed that it's just totally on the forefront of the employer's mind at the moment. And we've been really busy. We've created over 40 brands, specifically well-being brands in the last couple of years, but most of them would have been done in the last year. So yeah, I definitely agree. Kind of over the last 12 months, there's been a surge in what you were saying, in mental health kind of branding almost, and well-being as a full.
Okay, thank you very much. And do we have the answers for the poll, please? I feel like I'm on a game show when I do this. Right, so if you did forget the question, it was what is your favorite way of collaborating remotely? The most popular answer was meetings over Skype, Zoom, or Microsoft Teams. The second most popular was real-time collaboration, such as Miro, Bureau, or iCloud. And the third was messaging, such as WhatsApp or Slack. And then only a small number of people thought a telephone call. Nobody thought that Trello or virtual reality was good for collaborating remotely. So thank you for that. And now we are coming up to the very end. So I'd just like to really, really thank the panel for being here tonight. It's been absolutely amazing. If you can hang around, we are going over to the networking discussion. We should be able to see the links in the panel there, so you can get yourself a glass of wine or a beer or a tea, depending on where you are. It's you, David. And then we can go from there. But look, thank you very much, everyone, and I will see you in the networking.
Thank you very much. See you later.
Cheers.
Bye.
Thanks.